welcome to a very special episode of Cruising with Kayfabe. I'm Mongo.
I'm Emily.
And today we had the pleasure of interviewing someone from the Netflix show Wrestlers. We've been wanting to talk about the show Wrestlers a little bit more since that was our most popular episode at over 400 downloads already. So we figured what's going to flow best.
I mean, what's going to get the money rolling?
So we figured, why not? Let's bring someone on the show who not only was, in our opinion, one of the stars of Netflix Wrestlers, was a very inspirational person, was a very great talker, very positive person to talk to.
Also somebody that worked more behind the scenes than what we actually got to see.
And also found out that, Al Snow really is the king of dad jokes until I take his place. But without further ado, we'd like you to enjoy this interview with Cash Flo. And everyone, would you please welcome to the show Cash Flo? And if you don't know, Cash Flo is a Wizard of Wall Street, 3-time OVW heavyweight champion, 6-time tag team champion, and one of the original members of IWA Mid-South, winning some titles there as well. So thank you so much, Cash Flo, for coming on today.
You've done your legwork. I see. You're also forgetting former OVW national heavyweight champion, the only guy or the first guy on the OVW roster to hold the OVW heavyweight championship and the national championship simultaneously.
Dang.
There we go. I guess I slipped up on that one. She's usually the deep diver here, so I'm surprised she didn't get that one too.
I know.
You're slacking, Mongo.
I know. Well, like we said, we're really excited to have you here today. We're super big fans of the Wrestlers documentary. That's kind of what put our eyes onto you as well. The moment we watched it, we both fell in love with how they presented you, the family. We both said, oh, look at this. His wife is supporting his goals. He's a family man. And then even doing research, seeing that you worked with the Ronald McDonald House as a premature, baby myself. And then seeing your story, I was like, this is meant to be. So thank you so much again. I'm excited to do this interview today with you.
Absolutely, Mongo. And you hit the nail on the head. My wife and I both, we hold the Ronald McDonald House pretty close to us. It helped us through some tough times. So.
No, absolutely. And it's a great thing they're doing. So for those who are listening and watching this, make sure you check out, donate, support. They do great for the parents who are visiting their children where, they're in the most stressful time of their life. They provide shelter. They provide a place to stay. So you don't have to worry about going back and forth hours, all that commute. So check it out. Please, especially in this holiday season where times are even tighter, consider donating to the Ronald McDonald House.
Absolutely. They also, they help. They're very resourceful. They help with, if there's something that they can't do, they also help you find resources on stuff that you do need as well. So it's a very worthy cause. If you can donate, please do.
100% agree. A special place in my heart, always and forever. And to kind of get started here, I figured we kind of go through with how you got started in wrestling. One of the questions that we always like to know is, what was your first, what made you become a fan and what kind of got you into wrestling? What's your wrestling fandom like?
Well, I mean, I grew up with grandparents, so, it was kind of a mainstay in my house, and, living where I live, wrestling was always a big thing around here, Tuesday night at the Louisville Gardens. I mean, I'm an old Memphis nerd. I grew up watching Memphis wrestling. I'm actually a Southern wrestling type of guy. I got introduced with Memphis wrestling, but as I become a teenager and whatnot, it became, the Southern wrestling, the Georgia Championship wrestlings, the old NWA World Championship wrestling, 605 on Saturday. And, that's where it started for me. I really didn't start watching, the Northern wrestling feds other than like Vern Gagne in Minnesota. I really didn't start watching the Northern wrestling feds, like WWF and, Vince Sr. and Jr. until probably around the time that they started running the Monday night stuff with Raw, back in the early 90s. So, I knew of it, but, like I said, I was always Flair and Dusty, those guys, when they jumped ship, that was, the kind of what got me started watching, WWE and stuff like that. Cause I was a big Flair and Dusty fan. I watched those guys from way back, when I can even remember watching, TV. So, I was a big Southern wrestling guy, and it was kind of a thing that I wanted to do from early on. You know, I wanted, because it was fighting to me back then, you know, watching, you know, Wahoo and Manny Fernandez and those, you know, and Dusty, and, you know, those guys made it real to me. And, you know, I was enthralled, you know. Of course, you know, I kind of figured it out, you know, as I started getting a little older, you know, and it was something that I wanted to do. And then, you know, IWA Mid-South came to town, and some of the guys that I grew up watching, you know, said, hey, you need to come see this, you know. So I went and watched it, and, you know, I was hooked. I think I started going to wrestling school shortly after that, you know, maybe weeks, you know, a few weeks after that. So, you know, it's just one of them things that kind of fell in my lap, you know. I guess you call it destiny, if you will.
I feel that completely. I grew up watching it off and on with like friends. And
Yeah.
then I really got into it after my son was born. So that was like 2014. And it really speaks volume because we had such great stories going at that time in WWE. I had
Yeah.
no idea about other companies. I missed out on so much wrestling at that time. I had no
Did you
idea.
ever think about going back and watching some of the older stuff and any of
Yeah. So
that?
I make her watch all the classics, especially with, you know, Peacock and the availability of the internet now.
Oh
I've made
yeah,
her watch
absolutely.
some of the original, like the '88, you know, Super Brawls, and some of the old War Games matches, because War Games always got
Yep.
a special place in my heart. And you said you were a Dusty man, so right there, I already knew he's a winner. I'm like, oh, he's a Dusty guy, because that whole family, the
Man,
Rhodes family, is just such fun to watch.
absolutely. There was none greater, in my opinion, back in the day. You know, you know, the way he carried himself, his charisma, you know, he looked like a wrestler. He wasn't necessarily, you know, built like a cookie cutter guy. You know, he stood out amongst all the big, huge. He stood out in the way he talked and the way he carried himself. You know, that's what captivated me. I'm always going to be a Dusty guy.
I was captivated by Dustin as Gold Dust. So
A lot of people were. A lot of people were. You know, Dustin did that well. You know, he took what was given to him, or he created it himself, and he did it very well.
Now you talk about Dusty having the look. You can't shortchange yourself. You definitely have that look, and when you bring the chop shop to people and you bring them to the House of Pain, and you're making their chest bruise. I mean, I saw a video where a certain CM Punk who just returned that you bruised the crap out of him pretty early on.
Oh yeah, we went back and forth when, you know, when he joined IWA Mid South, him and, you know, Chris Hero and some of those guys that come through. I mean, you know, that's what it was. You know, I was trying to make a name for myself, much like him. You know, I was trying to steal the show every chance I got, and, you know, I swung for the fences. You know, this is wrestling. You can't, you know, you can't, you know.
no, we were like watching matches for the past couple weeks off and on of like a bunch of different types of styles. And I was like, look at that. That's Cash Flow too. Wait. He's here too. So like a bunch of matches we were watching, you just happened to show up in as well. So it helped our research. So
Oh,
it's really cool.
that made it easy, didn't it?
No, and shout out to your YouTube channel at Cash Flow, because I love the way you have it organized. It was very easy to go through your channel and watch some of the old matches you have on there, the old clips, your promos. I have my MBA, I'm a banker, so your name Cash Flow already popped me just for that, because I swear Cash Flow statements and balance sheets were the death of me in college, and I just think it's hilarious. So how'd you come up with the name Cash Flow? Because that was one of the questions I've always been kind of curious about.
Well, first thing I want to give a shout out. You talked about my YouTube channel. I need to give a shout out to my wife. She's very organized, and she handles a lot of my stuff when it comes to online. And, you know, I can't really, none of this is even possible without her. You know, it went back to what you guys said earlier, you know, in the wrestlers thing. You know, that is part of it. You know, it hasn't always been peaches and sunshine, but, you know, we've kind of stuck together through it all. And, you know, we've kind of made it a family business. So, you know, I have to give her the credit that she deserves when it comes to my YouTube channel, because she organized all that. And, you know, it's pretty amazing when you look at it. But you asked me how I came up with the name. Well, when I was in wrestling school, and I think I've only told this story once or twice. When I was in wrestling school, Me and another guy, his name was Lenny Montgomery. He went by the name Rolling Hard. And when we we were the only ones that was always tearing down the rings and setting it up. And, we were trying to pay our dues, and, we would always be in class together, working with each other. And we were setting up a show at a bar here in Louisville called Shakey's. It's not around anymore, but we started talking about names, and we were throwing stuff out there, and he would always tell me, hey, everything that you do is right on the money. That kind of stuck with me. And we were talking about, dollars, we were talking about cash, and he was like, look, what do you think of this? And I was like, hey, I like cash. I was like, why don't we do, I said, how does Cash Flow sound? Because, I kind of, go with the flow. It's not, I'm not the type of person that likes to map everything out. I like to react, and I like to get reactions by reacting. It was like, what do you think of Cash Flow? And I was like, hey, let's go with it. And it's kind of stuck with me. It's been one of them things that's it's been around. So, I credit that with Roland and bouncing ideas back and forth off of him. And here we are.
That's great. So coming in almost 30 years, and you've probably been one of the wrestlers who hasn't really changed your name. You picked your name, you went with it, and you've built your brand. And I think that's incredible. As a business person, I think that's what's always fascinated me about the wrestling business. And I think that's why that documentary really was well produced for me, because it shows the financial sides of it. And it shows, it is about putting the butts in the seats and about making the money, but in the passion. And I love that you were hustling. I love that you were putting your merch out there, that you always had a gimmick table. You always were, do you have a website, which I always feel like is super underrated nowadays, having a website.
Yeah.
And
that's another one of the ideas. That's another one of the ideas. That's my wife, because I actually fought with her about it, and she convinced me to do that, and said that I needed that. And, it's just one of those things that cause I'm a wrestler, a lot of times the peripheral stuff, is not so much in my face, which is why it's so important, in wrestling, to have a support system. And, it's just one of them things that has done wonders for me and my brand and our family.
That's so awesome. I know we keep plugging it, but she definitely deserves it. I mean, it's awesome to have such a support system, like you said. I always call her my tag team partner for life, and sounds like you have yours too, because you truly do in every aspect of life. So when, pick yourself up, it's a lot easier to lift each other up than it is to push each other down. And to see that she's helping you, push yourself to be your best, and you're pushing herself, and you're following your dream, I think that's enviable. And that's really what resonates with people who watch the documentary, who've watched you on Thursdays on OVW, who've seen you in the ring, is, like you said, you go with the flow. Every time I saw you go out there, whether it was a match or on the documentary, it looked like Cash Flo was out there. He was ready to work, and he was ready to do his best. And I definitely appreciate that it's real. It felt real and raw. How do you think you were kind of presented in the documentary?
The director was amazing. Greg Whiteley, he has skill when it comes to his eye and his vision, what he wants to put together. They recorded a long time and a lot of different stuff. And honestly, I had no clue what they were going to put out there, what kind of stories he was going to tell. And, I was just as pleasantly surprised when I watched it, when it came out. I feel pretty good about what he put out there. That he tried to tell my story exactly the way that I would have liked for him to. And I think he did a pretty bang up job. I really do. He's a good director. He knows what he's doing.
No, definitely. I mean, just from the first moment you see it and you hear the narration and you see OVW and you see all the talent, you're instantly hooked. You just want to watch it. It's the human interest story. And I think seeing Al Snow being recognizable from anyone from the Louisville area to WWE, WF, WCW, you already see a familiar face. So you get sucked in, and then you get to meet you and your coworkers and see everything. And it's just we I think we got through it in a weekend, didn't mean to. We started watching one, we're like, just one more, just one more, just one more. We watched it all. So
before you know it,
kind
it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, where did it go?
right?
I have to work in an hour. What happened?
Yeah, and that's a testament to their storytelling, that whole crew. And let's just, so I'm clear with it, all that stuff is it was not contrived. It was all as real and as raw as it possibly could have been. You know, some of it on there, you know, you kind of, ooh, what is he doing here? But you know, the wrestling needed it. You know, OVW needed that story to be told, and you know, it's been tremendous. It's helped all of us, and you know, I'm proud of what they put out there.
We were just at WrestleCade, 3 weeks ago now?
Oh,
and
yeah.
We were able to like watch everybody kind of coming out from their matches because we had a vendor table.
Uh-huh.
And it was really interesting because you could see the difference in like people that had been on TV and everything like that, which is, in my opinion, very unfortunate. I like meeting up and coming wrestlers because then you
Yeah.
get to kind of, it's the feel good moment when they do get on TV. You're like, oh my God, they made it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like that. So seeing everybody getting their flowers was really awesome. And you could just hear the fans in the corner like, oh my God, there they are. There they are. And I just love that for everybody too. It was a good feel good moment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure the guys feel it too. You know, some of the guys that, you know, aren't as prominent and finally get that opportunity, you know, they feel it too. You know, it makes them feel good.
No, and I think the big question, I don't know if you know or allowed to ask, but do you know if there's going to be a second season? Because that's always, when I'm done a show, I'm like, is there going to be another one?
Hey, that's the $1 million question. You know, the only thing that I can tell you is, you know, I'm enjoying the run that we had on the first. Whether there isn't, we've done something that has never been done. We opened up that door. You know, there's been documentaries out there about wrestling, but you can kind of tell, you know, there's not been any like this. And, you know, if it does, I'm game. If it doesn't, you know, I'm game either way, you know. So we'll see. We'll see. There's been a lot of good words about it. You know, it's been nominated for a Spirit Award for Best Non-Scripted Documentary Series.
Awesome.
You know, early on in award season. So we'll see. We'll see what else is out there, and you know, we'll see. That's all I can say.
I'll take it. You know, just the fact that you're happy with it, I think that's what showed through. Because I mean, we've rewatched it again just because I feel like we missed some of the little nuances from, you know, Layla's proposal to all the different, I won't say subplots because I feel like that's kind of demeaning it, but all the different stories from each individual person, because, you know, the director was so good at not just tunnel vision. It wasn't just here's the A story. It's here's the A, here's the B, here's the C, and you kind of connect with each different person. So, and I think that's what was so well done about it. And I really hope it helped OVW. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, and I hope it at least helped OVW and get you guys some new eyes on there, because you guys definitely deserve more eyes in your product, because it's very fun to watch.
Yeah, OVW, it's definitely helped OVW. Like I said, out of the last 16 programs that we've done, 15 of them have been sold out. And I mean, pre-sold out. And we actually have our last big pay-per-view of the year is actually sold out, like a pre-sell out. You know, they're not allowing anybody to come in off the street. So it's definitely been good. You know, it's got some different eyes on us. You know, of course, they put out a press release the other day. You know, we've got some other guys, you know, wanting to, you know, come in and invest in it. And it's really helped, you know, OVW and the staff. And we're going to take it running. We're going to hit the ground running come 2024. It's going to be a whole brand new ball game.
Oh, that's so exciting to hear.
Is there someone that you enjoy training with that you think like has the it factor?
You know, I probably shouldn't say this, but you know, Luke Curtis can go. You know, he's a good one. He knows what he's doing in his young career. He's really picked it up and he pushes. But I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of guys in that OVW locker room that are hungry, wanting. You know, they want the world and they're not scared to work for it. They're really not. All of us, we have a team mindset, and we're really trying to push this thing over the top. We really are.
That's such a good mindset to have too. That we're all one team, we're all one goal, one mission, because everyone knows whatever job you work in life, if you're you against the world, if you don't have coworkers working with you trying to achieve the same goal, you're going to resent other people because you're going to have to work either twice as hard, you're going to pick up slack. So it's nice that you guys all have that passion and fire. And again, I think that's what makes the ring product look so good, because I was telling her when we first started walking the documentary, OVW is that promotion that they never stopped. Even after the legendary classes that have been churned out of there over the years, they've never stopped. They just didn't have the same national exposure some of these other brands did, but they've always been killing it out there. They've always had matches, and I was excited to jump back in because I forgot just some of the talent that's run through. I know they feature some of the documentary, but some of the talent that's just even come in there for a cup of coffee to work for you guys. You guys have had some incredible workers in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I know some of those guys. Actually, some of those guys have been, kind of, filtering back in, to help out with some of the younger guys in there. We've seen Aaron Stevens come in there and help out in the locker room. Talking to some of the guys. It's and we really have to give credit to Al Snow for pulling OVW through all that mess, because OVW was close to closing the doors. They really were. And, with his vision and everything that he brings to the table and the respect that he has in professional wrestling, OVW doesn't succeed without Al Snow. He is he's a one of a kind. I'll just say that Al Snow is a one of a kind, and to have him as a mentor and a boss and a guy that's running the show is, it's one of those things that you can only dream about, and it's definitely my pleasure in being there, working under him, working for him, picking his brain whenever I get an opportunity. So, but he deserves a lot of that. He deserves a lot of that credit. Yeah, the guys have to get in there and they have to perform and they have to do what they're supposed to do to make it succeed. But without his vision, it would be like the blind leading the blind. So, he deserves a lot of that credit, and I'm proud to be a part of it. I really am.
That warms my heart, because I've always loved watching Al Snow teach. I think that's when I rediscovered him a few years ago. I saw some YouTube videos of him doing some training seminars, and the one that stuck with me was him talking about a finish and the snowplow, and how everyone they hit this move, but why? And he just, as someone who has never had training, as someone who's only watched it as a fan, to hear the way he explained it, even I was like, oh, I get it now. Like, someone who's never set foot in a ring or laced up boots was like, I understand what he's trying to get across psychology wise.
Yeah.
He has it.
Yeah. And I actually, he's helped me out a lot in that regards, because I actually teach for the OVW, for his school there at OVW. I do the beginners classes and I teach the sports and nutrition classes there. And, a lot of those teaching principles, I've been able to learn from Al, which is amazing, because I'll say it until I'm old and gray and can't walk. He's one of the best teachers in professional wrestling ever. He has been in regards to that, in my eyes and where I've been. Al Snow, he's pretty legendary. So
I know that leads you into your favorite question. You said you do some training and coaching, and you always have a question you always like to ask everyone in the wrestling business.
So I'm a part of Heels, and one of the things that they usually ask is, what is a piece of advice that stuck with you? And I love that question.
Are you asking me that question? Is that what that is?
Yeah. Like, what is a piece of advice that stuck with you that you got from someone else?
A guy by the name of Tracy Smothers told me a long time ago. He said, Cash, look, he said, I understand where you're at now, but you have to understand the way you truly succeed in wrestling is longevity. Longevity is the key. By default, you will be known. People will find you. They will understand who you are. by the amount of time that you've been around. He said, just keep in mind that Rome wasn't built in a day and longevity is the key.
That's really
That
great
stuck
advice,
with
too.
me.
That's really good advice. And I mean, now you're training people, so that says everything.
And you know, there's nothing more rewarding than helping somebody along, and you know, because wrestling can be full of distractions, a lot of distractions, and you know, to help somebody stay focused and help them, you know, reach their goals and figure out where it is that they really want to go, or even if it is for them, you know, it's extremely rewarding, and you know, I enjoy doing that side of it almost as much as I enjoy doing the in-ring side of it and the other aspects of professional wrestling. So, you know, it's just one of them things.
No, I love it. And I'm going to Uno reverse her question a little bit. What's some of the
Right.
advice you like to give when you train? Like, what's some advice that you really try to drill home to your student? Like, is there one piece of advice like I have to drill this home every time I teach? That I need this message to get across.
Wrestling is about the why, not the what. And I learned that from Al Snow. You know, if you can get people to identify with you, if you can get people to identify with your why, then you can get them to believe anything. You can sell sand in the desert if you can get them to believe your why. They'll follow you down any hole. You know, it's not what you do, it's why you do it. And I'm kind of living proof of that. And I try to hammer that into everything. Cause you know, I teach the beginners of the beginners, guys that have no, you know, idea what professional wrestling is. And, you know, that's something because that encompasses all when it comes to, you know, selling who you are and what it is that you're doing or why you're doing it. So that's something that I really try to hammer into those guys because it goes along with the intent of professional wrestling.
No, that's so smart. Just because knowing a purpose in anything, like knowing the reasons behind things, will I feel make you want to do things more, understand things more. It's kind of like when you're a little kid, you know, you need to do this. Why? Because I said so. Well, you're not going to learn as if your parent just says because I said so versus here's why we got to do this. Oh, okay. So I think that's so smart. And then selling sand in the desert, that's great. I love that analogy. I can totally picture him saying that.
Yes, I mean you know, he's a big preponderant of the why, not the what. So it's important.
Does he do a lot of dad jokes offline too? Because I know he's kind of famous for social for having some of those out there dad jokes. And as a dad joke fan myself, I'm curious, is he like that too? Does he always try to pop you guys with random dad jokes?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He's the king of dad jokes and all other jokes. He's a comedian. I ain't gonna lie.
That's great. So kind of going back into your journey, are there any memorable matches or matches you wish maybe more people would watch that you really think define who Cash Flow is? I mean, I know you've been through a lot of styles from death matches in IWA to traditional matches to battle royals. So you've been in a lot. You've done a lot for this.
You know, memorable matches. I've had a couple matches where fans get so mad at me they jump in the ring, and you know, those are always memorable because they're, you know, they're all over the place. You just don't know what's happening. You know, when I was on tour with the Insane Clown Posse back in the early 2000s, something had happened, and I was in a match with Madman Pondo, and Rob Van Winkle was his manager. You know who Rob Van Winkle is?
Is that Vanilla Ice?
That is Vanilla Ice. Yes.
I love it.
And I took a power bomb off a stage, and Pondo couldn't hold me, and I slid down. I landed on my head, so I couldn't really finish the tour. So they gave me this crazy, weird Evil Dead gimmick, like only the clowns can do, where I could just walk to the ring and play with a chainsaw, and then I could go back. And they kept me on tour just to do that. So all those matches as that Evil Dead guy was amazing because I'd never done anything like that before. But it was fun to get to be under a mask and just, you know, do all this with the body and the chainsaw. So all those were memorable. Getting to wrestle Al Snow in Wisconsin, albeit it was in a tag match, I still, how can you not, take that one with you and say, yeah, okay, that's bucket list stuff, and not knowing at the time, but, the few matches that I did with, like Punk and Cabana and Hero, early on in their career and in my career, I wouldn't have thought it then, but, seeing that is how everything played out, now those are absolutely memorable to me, so.
I still laughed at Cabana coming out kind of looking like this, almost like the Trustbusters when you were out in AEW Dark with the upside down visor and him just kind of popping himself around to see where Colt's now and seeing that. I'm like, that's really Colt Cabana running around kind of looking like Malibu's Most Wanted. All right.
Yeah, they did this thing in IWA Mid-South. They called it the Gold Bond Mafia. It was Colt. It was Dave Prazak. It was Punk and a guy named Smooth. Was it Chucky Smooth or Paulie Smooth? They did a thing called the Gold Bond Mafia, and they would come out and Colt would have his hat upside down. They'd be squirting Gold Bond powder everywhere. It was so weird. It was so weird. But
I bet the wrestling fans needed that. Whew.
It is wrestling fans, and it is old IWA Mid-South wrestling fans. I mean, it is what it is,
I think that's what's so great about wrestling. One moment you could have a match where you have two people beating the ever living crap out of each other to, like you said, a dead guy coming out trying to attack other people to then getting hit with baby powder in one promotion to, I'm pretty sure back in the day I saw Ninja Turtles and giant babies wrestle. So, I mean, wrestling really is a buffet. I think that's the one quote I heard once that stuck with me, that wrestling is a buffet. You kind of pick and choose what you like.
There's a lot of wrestling fans out there, and there is a lot of flavors of professional wrestling. I will say that.
So what do you think you developed for your favorite style? Because I know, like I said, you've gone through like a strong style, high fly style, deathmatch. What do you think you've settled in? Like, what's your favorite style of wrestling that you like to do?
I like to mix a little bit of power and fighting, and I still, believe it or not, I still do some of that high flying stuff. I still do dives. I still come off the top rope. I've been known to bust out a Mexican head scissors, hurricanrana or two. I just, it's all about fighting. I mean, that's what it is. That's my thing. I will fight and I will fight. And, if I lose, that's not good. So, I will fight to the very end. And if I lose, I lose. I'm gonna brush myself off and I'm gonna come back for more.
Is there a crazy area that you've ever wrestled in? Like, we've talked about being on the cruise. We've seen wrestling in the middle of the ocean. Is there somewhere that you're like, oh, wow, I can't believe I wrestled there?
I wrestled in the back of a U-Haul truck before.
What?
Yeah. IWA Mid-South, nothing was off limits there.
I guess not.
And nothing was off limits there. And yeah, I had a match. It was inside the back of the U-Haul, and we made our way to the top of the U-Haul to back down inside. And I think the pinfall happened. I think it was inside the U-Haul truck. So, I mean, most of the time it's been in a ring. I've never done anything really extremely crazy. I mean, back of a U-Haul truck. Yeah, the ring's over here. You take it to a U-Haul truck. But, I've never done anything on it. They had flirted. OVW has flirted with sticking a ring on a lake and doing a lake show. That may come about in 2024. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. That would be interesting. Some kind of floating wrestling ring, out in the middle of a lake. I've done it on stages, on concert stages in the middle of concert. I was in Denver, Colorado, and there was a lacrosse game at Ball Arena. Do you know what Ball Arena is? Where the Denver Nuggets play pro basketball. And we had 15 minutes. We had in the middle of this arena, surrounded by people, right after a game. We had 15 minutes to set up a ring and run a wrestling show. There were 10,000 people there. And in 15 minutes, we had a ring set up and they were already playing the music for the first match. So that was kind of crazy being in a big arena like that. So
That's like NASCAR style.
Yeah, it was very quick, and there was about 25 of us that did it, but we got it done in 15 minutes, 16 minutes, I think they clocked us at. So it was crazy.
That's impressive just for setup time, because I'm that person that takes me 20 minutes to build like a 5-minute project. So I'd be the person holding the wrench trying to tighten the turnbuckle, and everybody else is like, get something done. Like, I don't know what to do right now.
Not to mention, we had to carry all that stuff from an exit gate about 300 yards to the middle of this arena where we were supposed to set up this ring. So it wasn't just a setup; it was the carrying all the stuff back and forth. I mean, it was pretty crazy, you know.
That's intense.
Yeah.
And probably try not to, exhaust yourself setting it up, because you got to go work in front of those 10,000 people too. So that's like a double-edged sword.
But you got to lay it out there, man. That's what wrestling is. You know, you got to lay it out there.
I think it's kind of funny because there was a stat I heard on NFL radio the other day on the way home, and they were talking about the Broncos' records started after they had the CMLL guys go out and wrestle on the field during halftime. So your story is kind of comical. I'm like, so Denver just loves randomly during intermission at sporting events having wrestling. Like, maybe we should go check out Denver, Colorado sometimes for sports, because we can get wrestling during the sports.
I'm wondering if Rocky Mountain Pro, I wonder, they may be doing that again in 2024. I'm not for sure. You know, maybe if it is, maybe you can shoot me a message. Maybe I can get you a date or something. You can come out there.
Yeah, definitely. I'll take a look at that. That'd be fun to see. And, maybe I have to get you to come to Carolina. We have a PNC arena where the Hurricanes play. It's got a pretty versatile floor. I know where all the entrances are. I can help you set up.
Well, you know what? That's actually a good idea, Mongo. You are to send an email to OV Wrestling. Let's see, what is it? I think it's booking@ovwrestling.com. Send an email there and tell them where you would like to see them come, because they're putting this nationwide tour together next year, and that may be something that they think is interesting if you have any contacts or anything like that. So put that out there. I mean, man.
We've seen Jada come through DPW here a few times, so Jada would know some places too. Yeah, we've seen like the Dorton Arena and everything.
Yeah, I haven't seen Jada in a little while, so I hope she's doing okay.
We saw her, aside from Russell Cage, she was at DPW a few times this summer when we went. It's really cool I didn't even know she was going to be on the Netflix series. So I was like, oh my God, it's Jada. So excited, because she's a firecracker in the ring. It's so fun to watch her.
She is a firecracker inside and outside the ring, for sure. That's for sure.
That's great. And I think it's cool too. I mean, maybe we can even get get Ricky Morton. He loves coming down here, because I know you've had some tie-ups with the Rock and Roll Express before. So,
oh yes, and a lot of them it was when I was younger, but I've been around Ricky and Robert, several times since. I have a very, very odd story with those guys. Very odd story. I'm not
bandaged up.
Yeah. You all are waiting for me to say it. I can't tell. I'm not going to say it, but
no worries.
You're safe. We have a great story for them. Our friend Brian was bit by a pig on a pig excursion, and they actually helped bandage him up.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised the pig didn't eat him. Those guys will eat anything.
I was going to say, that's why I wasn't going in the water with them. Like, I've seen some hogs rip some things apart. I'm good.
I had pigs as a kid.
Yeah, I know.
She's not a pig fan.
No, especially those giant teeth. I'm good.
Yeah, you can save that.
Yeah, I know. Basically, after he got his finger busted open by the pig, he's like, I didn't know what to do, and I didn't want to get first aid in the Bahamas, so I saw Ricky Morton sitting there. I'm like, if anyone's going to know how to tape up a wound, it's this man. So he went over and got his hand stitched up.
He pretty much saved his finger for real.
I probably the old school, use super glue and tape and make some stitches out of it and go with it. Yeah.
He didn't remember it after, though.
We had the drink package. It's kind of hard to remember a lot of things on that cruise.
There you go. I bet it is hard to remember a lot of that.
So, speaking of, what kind of challenges have you kind of faced in your career? Have they overcome, or some obstacles that you've really had to reflect on to really get where you are now?
Well, the same obstacles that anybody really has to go through in wrestling. you deal with family stuff, and you know, of course, people not believing in you. You know, they kind of look down on you a lot. You know, and coming up in wrestling, you know, they say you need to hold a regular job to support your wrestling habit. You know, you go through that, you know, coming in until you can get to a point to where you can maybe, you know, make a living off this if you know, if you're fortunate enough. You know, it just a lot of the regular trials and tribulations that you go through, you know, have pains and aches and stitches and, you know, lacerations and, you know, people you trust that you shouldn't really trust, or you don't really know that, you know. I went through a lot of that same stuff, you know, and I've been fortunate to come out the other end, you know, with, you know, not too many distractions. You know, a lot of times people end up, you know, they end up bad off here, or they end up, you know, they do, you know, health wise, they end up doing something they shouldn't do. You know, I've been fortunate to, you know, and I attribute that to, you know, the type of person that I am, and, you know, my family, you know, being focused on what it is that I'm really doing and why I'm doing it, you know. And yeah, it's not been easy, you know. It's not been easy. You know, I've been a professional wrestler for 28 years, something like that. And I've went through everything that the young folks are going through now. I've had my own distractions, and, you know, you have to stay focused on what it is that you're really trying to accomplish. And, you know, it all comes back to, you know, do you love this? Do you really want to do this? Is this what you want to do with, you know, your life? And I've fought with that tooth and nail. At sometimes I've almost lost, you know, but you always come back to, you know, hey, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. And, you know, here I am.
And I love the demeanor that you have about it, and your candor about that. You know, yeah, these are challenges I faced to overcome, and you coming through the side, having that positive mindset, because it's, you know, we've all obviously, you know, gone through a lot. Just to see someone who is out there who's inspiring to be the best you can, to work as hard as you can, to live your dream, I think that really resonates with people and really resonates with fans. And I think that's what's great about your story is, you know, it doesn't matter what you're going through. I've always seen a smile on your face. Every interview, every clip, you go out there with a smile, you go out there and, you know, I don't need to know, you know if you go behind the curtain, you're like, oh, that sucked. But at least you go out there and you put on the demeanor and you put that energy out. And I think it's infectious, and I really enjoy it.
I appreciate that, Mongo. You know, I'm a positive person. That is exactly who I am. And, you know, I definitely try to see the glass half full whenever I can. You know, it really, it's not doing me and it's not doing anybody around any good, you know, to carry that weight or that ball of chain that just keeps dragging them down. You know, I understand that, you know, everybody's going to go through, you know, tough stuff, you know, and you can either do two things. You can either drop it and move past it, or you can let it just keep dragging you and getting heavier and heavier and heavier. You know, I tend to try and look at the brighter side of things. You know, I don't like dragging heavy things around with me all the time.
No, and that's such a valuable lesson. So many people I think in life need to learn that it's not about, you know, it's like Rafiki said in Lion King, you know, even though the past may hurt, you got to move forward, you know, bonk you on the head with his little stick there. But I just think that it's such a good message, especially in this industry. You know, being a fan, I try not to, you know, peek behind the curtain too much or read into things I shouldn't, because everything's second, third, fourth hand, you know, knowledge. I don't really know, but unfortunately there's always a negative connotation. So to see a positive bright spot in wrestling is always such a big thing for me, because you go online, it's just negative. And no, that's not what wrestling is to me. Wrestling's entertainment. It's fun. It's an escape from reality to me.
We want to see what's supposed to be put out there for us to see, like a puzzle almost, you know. You get to peek behind the curtain just a slight bit.
Yeah. And that's one thing with wrestling. You know, it is inherently, you know, full of those distractions, and it started from a darker place, you know, back in the Carney days and whatnot. And that's really what I hoped the wrestlers on Netflix, I hoped that series would portray, you know, that there is good in professional wrestling. There, people do work hard, people do work together. It's not all, you know, filled with such negative distractions to where, you know, this person wants to bury this person. You know, we see enough of that in professional wrestling, and I was just hoping that the producer and the crew would see that and try to, you know, focus on that. So, you know, and they did a heck of a job of it, and I'm glad that that's out there, and I'm glad that they've seen that for what it really is, and I'm glad fans like yourself, you know, pick up on that and know that wrestling is not just full of dark side of this, or, you know, bad times with this, you know, that there is light out there. There is, you know, glasses that are half full out there, you know.
I agree.
I think it was hard also just to see that almost not the independent side, but the side that's not fully out there. It was kind of hard for us to see the truth behind it because we're huge fans of all wrestling. So to see that part, like, oh, now we definitely want to get the tickets. We want to be in those seats. We want to be watching. And my big thing is like, there's not going to be a quiet match. If there's quiet, this one's going to get a chant going because I'm not loud enough to do that, but he is. So like I'll whisper to him something I think should like start a chant with, because I'm like, this can't be quiet. That's not how this works. Like wrestling is loud. Wrestling's fun. You need to put that positive aspect out there.
You go to have fun, right?
Yeah, and I can't let them have a quiet match.
Yeah, let all that other stuff go. That's what wrestling is. It's a way to escape whatever it is you have to do on a normal everyday basis. That's what wrestling should be. It should be a good time. It shouldn't be full of, you know, negativity, and, you know, it should allow you guys to focus on something other than what it is you have to go through every day, you know.
Same with you guys, though. I mean, imagine a singer comes out and nobody's singing along. That is a boring concert.
Yeah, and I've wrestled in front of some, you know, I've wrestled in a barn in front of 5 people with 3 of them on a couch sitting together. So, you know, yeah, talk about memorable matches, right?
Right.
Hey, we saw one at a taco place. Like they were just wrestling out back on gravel. Like they had a ring, but they were coming out that ring onto gravel. I felt so bad for the guys.
Hopefully the tacos was good though.
Yes, tacos and the beer were very good. No, it's you're right. Like the energy is always so infectious, and I it's funny you out me because I love doing that. Like I love trying to, you know, make sure the face is getting the cheers, the boos for the heel. I don't cross the line. I'm not going to say anything that's disparaging because, again, I don't feel like getting my teeth knocked down my throat if I, you know, mouth off to the wrong person or, you know, hurt someone's feelings. So
you bought a ticket. Say what you want. That's what it is. Don't hold anything back. You bought a ticket. That's what it's about. That is what it's about right there.
We've seen the drunkest crowds and we've seen the sober crowds, and they're both very entertaining.
Oh yeah, I've caused a few riots at some drunken crowds. That's for sure. I've wrestled at my share of bars. That is for sure.
That's gonna be entertainment itself, you know, when you're in the ring kind of watching for reaction, just seeing like, okay, who can I focus on to see if I can get a reaction out of? Well, this guy seems like he's street cheese to the win. Watch this.
Yes, that's part of a wrestler. That is part of our job, to pick out the people that are going to give it to you the most, or they're going to get behind you the most, and then you bring it to them, and you know that's an art form in itself.
It definitely is. I think when someone can captivate a room, even with facial expressions or, you know, even just their energy, I think it makes it more enjoyable because, like she was saying, you know, if the singer comes out there and no one's singing along, then they're not going to give you energy and it's going to be flat. But, you know, if you have you going out there hitting that hurricane run out of nowhere and everybody's jumping out of their seat, I'm sure it gives you that adrenaline rush. It gives you that motivation to kind of keep going and maybe get that second wind.
Yeah, if fans like you guys, it definitely makes our job a lot easier. At the same time, us as professionals need to understand that we do have a job to do, and we need to do it to the best of our ability. And if it's quiet, we need to get some reactions. That is our job. So, it's a tit for tat, but us as wrestlers, we appreciate you guys because it makes our job a lot easier. That's for sure.
I know. I think that was the one hard thing about the pandemic was watching wrestling across the board, not seeing those fan interactions. It just felt like such a different product.
Yeah.
When you were doing the pandemic, I know you did a lot of the online seminars and the online. You were very creative with it, which I applaud because a lot of people kind of sat on their hands.
Yeah.
What was your reaction like when you first got that crowd back? Like, I know every wrestling promotion had that first show where the fans finally came back. What was it like for you guys in OVW and finally got those fans to be able to come back in?
Well, we did things a little different. We did take some time off, but OVW had it was important for us to figure out a way to keep putting shows out there. And I will credit Al Snow to this. He did keep putting shows out there. He would put together clips of some older shows, and he made sure that OVW still had a television program every single week. And there were 3 or 4 months that we couldn't run any shows, but different places had different rules regarding COVID and gatherings and whatnot. So when we couldn't run in Kentucky, we went across the bridge and ran over in Indiana, to try and keep our stuff going. And we did that for a few months. It was very difficult. Like I said, there were 3 or 4 months where we couldn't do anything. And I personally didn't want to do anything anyway, because, I had my kids at home and my wife at home, and I wasn't trying to go, anywhere and spread that nastiness around before anybody knew what it really was, So, it was difficult. And, to get back into the arena after COVID, because we had a lot of momentum pre-COVID, we were doing this at OVW, and then COVID just, tanked a lot of people, and, to get back in the arena that first time after COVID it was amazing to feel that energy again. So.
That's awesome. You have a question?
It was just, honestly, the pandemic was some of the best wrestling because you got to see the independents really shine.
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite things that at least AEW had done. They brought in people like Warhorse and other people just to challenge for things that you wouldn't normally get to see them. And I loved being able to see people that we saw live on television. And
Where are you guys from?
we're originally from New England, but now we live in North Carolina.
Oh, okay. Did you guys go down to Florida a lot during that time, or
no?
You just wish. You watch it on YouTube. Is that what you guys did?
Yeah.
We tried, but with my asthma, I didn't really want a chance flying or going down there potentially. So I completely agree when you're saying, not knowing and doing everything, but wanted to go to Jacksonville. We were like one day, but then before we knew it, thankfully fans were coming back. So we do plan on going to Revolution though, seeing Sting's last match, because I feel like that's something we got to see.
That will be very momentous. Sting, he's what they say he is. He's an icon. He's been around. He's done a lot in professional wrestling. That's going to be a big deal.
Absolutely. And I think one last question before we have you promote anything and wrap it up.
Okay.
When you do your merchandise, what kind of inspires you? Because I always like to ask this: what inspires you? Like, what makes you think, oh, I want to sell like a wrestling buddy, or I have this idea for a shirt. Like, I know you have, if it don't make dollars, it don't make no sense. I love that phrase. Like, seeing that, like, where's that creativity come? Like, or do you have ideas that you just kind of say, this is what I want to do?
Me and my business partner, me and my wife, we bounce ideas back and forth off of each other, and we try to keep it, because I believe merchandise for a particular brand sells you, and we try to hone it in on what it is, who I am, the whole money thing, and I wrestle for money. I mean, that's what it's about. So it's kind of a you know, a creativity thing that we bounce back and forth. You know, we kind of share each other's muse, and you know, we try to figure out, you know, what would be different. What does somebody else not have? You know, what do we think would sell? And you know, it's just kind of become a thing with us. You know.
I love it. It's like Steph DeLander just started selling lipstick because she knew she had to get different like price ranges out for merch. And I'm like, that lipstick, I want that lipstick now. I don't even wear lipstick.
And that's real. And you know, as long as it's true to who you are, no matter what it is, you know, of course, I'm not going to go out there selling panties, but you know, I have some of my friends that you know, that run, you know, do a certain gimmick. They might want to sell girls' underwear, or you know, it's just as long as you stay true to yourself and you know, you have a following, you can sell anything, you know, if you brand it correctly.
That is true. I'm surprised there hasn't been more ridiculous, because with Oriental Trader and some of those sites out there, you can buy pretty much anything in bulk. Some of the things I'm surprised. Like, I knew there was a guy who used to nickname himself Shredder. I'm like, he never sold cheese graters. I feel like that's a missed opportunity.
Oh yeah, he missed the boat on that one. Wow.
That's your marketing brain.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I've sold chocolate bars. I've sold everything.
Chocolate. See, that works, especially sometimes you go to those shows, you know, maybe you don't want popcorn, but I go to the merch booth, I see an 8x10, a chocolate bar. You already got 2 sales right there.
Wrapping in a gold foil. It's money.
Literally.
I love it. I love it.
Sell dollar coins.
Absolutely.
Gold coins.
Absolutely.
Love it. I love the merch. So is there anything upcoming appearances or anything you want to promote for yourself, or?
OVW runs their television every Thursday, and with everything new going on now, they've started doing it. They've started doing YouTube Lives and Facebook Lives. We're doing all of our television programs, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, every Thursday starting at 7. They can keep an eye out on my social medias for all the links and stuff to those lives. I try to promote those every Thursday. We have our last big pay-per-view of the year, December 16th, Christmas Chaos. It's going to be huge. The arena's already sold out. It's going to be a big show. You know, as far as appearances, that's probably going to be it for the rest of the year for me. You know, I'm going to sit back and, you know, recollect myself and hit 2024 running, because it's going to be super, super busy in 2024. I can't wait. I look forward to it. Now, as far as my, you know, anybody can go to chopshopwrestling.com. They can get anything. It's all cash flow. You can, any of my merch, chopshopwrestling.com. You can find me on Cameo. I've done quite a few cameos the last 2 or 3 months. You know, the series on Netflix has really ramped that up. But if you want to shout out, if you want me to wish you happy birthday, if you want me to threaten somebody, just to find me on Cameo, and I'll make it happen. I'll make it happen. All my social medias are all at Cash Flo Wrestler. Instagram, Facebook, X. You can find Threads. They're all at Cash Flo Wrestler. See, what else do I have out there? Of course, my YouTube channel. You can find it. It's under Cash Flo with no W. Cash Flo Wrestling. Okay. It's got a lot of my stuff, even a lot of my older stuff. It's like you were saying, you had looked at that earlier. So yeah, that's my YouTube channel. And that's about it.
Awesome. Well, again, I want to thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. It was a great conversation today. Enjoyed getting to talk with you, and you know, want to wish you and our listeners happy holidays. And here's to 2024 being more successful, bringing in more cash for Cash Flo.
Cheers, Mongo. I appreciate you and Emily having me on, and I would also too like to wish all the fans out there listening on Cruising with Kayfabe, hey, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is you choose to celebrate. Just remember, it's the end of the year. It's a time for celebration. Celebrate, but be safe while you're doing it.
I was so happy that Cash Flo was able to come on the show.
I'm still so mind blown at everything we just learned. I mean, I thought we deep dove, but that was not deep enough beforehand.
Hey, I only missed one title, so that's not terrible. At least but he corrected us and he was gracious. And shout out to his wife. His wife sounds like you. Sounds like, very supportive. His tag team partner in life helps push him to be better because I couldn't make this podcast better without you. So shout out to Emily and shout out to his wife.
Well, thank you. And on behalf of her, I mean, seriously, putting in the work on both of their behalfs. I think it's really incredible just to see not only the support that he's getting, but also the support that he gives to other talents and other people in general. It was really awesome to hear everything he had to say.
Very eye-opening, and just hearing him talk about who he's worked with, like Colt Cabana, CM Punk. He's worked with a who's who in wrestling. He's still working with a who's who in wrestling. And to know that wrestlers help get more eyes on the product, that's awesome. And we're lucky enough to do it. And you'll have to stay tuned because I don't think this is our first interview we're going to be getting done. So I think you have to stay tuned for some other special surprises. What do you think?
I think we have some tricks up our sleeve, and I'm ready to pull up our sleeves.
Ooh,
Get the work done.
I like that little tease. Go deep dive that tease. So again, thank you so much again to Cash Flo. Follow him on all the socials, chopshopwrestling.com at Cash Flo, CASHFLO. I'll put all of his links in our description of this episode as well as this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really hope you enjoyed learning about Cash Flo. And until next time, I'm Mongo.
I'm Emily. Don't forget to check out his YouTube. That's incredibly organized.
Absolutely. Again, shout out to his wife. So until next time, until the next interview, until the next episode, always keep the kayfabe.